And we are live, and now I am rocking up and down. Mark Finnern, how's it going, man?
Going good, and as we usually do, a little musical intro.
Yep, here we go, folks. Brace yourselves. You might want to turn the volume down if you're at work.
Memories.
Excellent. So we were gathered here tonight to discuss the future of enterprise tribes with Mark Finnern. And yes, I am going to ask him about his departure from SAP, but that's for a later video installment. So you're going to have to wait for that one. But anyhow, Mark, this is a significant evening for you. You are now the captain of a houseboat.
Yes.
That means those of us that have gotten addicted to your treehouse video shoots, this is it.
That's the outro for the treehouse webinars. So I'm a little sad about it, but I'm super happy that we got it organized Friday night for you. You're going to New York tomorrow, and same for me. I have to move a lot of stuff still this weekend. And so, but it's Friday evening here, 5 o'clock, and sun is coming down. And so super happy that we are able to do this.
Yep. And soon you'll be taping, I'm sure, for the viewers on your houseboat. So we should practice our Captain, My Captain.
Martin Gillette greets me often, and that always warms my heart when he does.
There you go. A new meaning to adrift, literally adrift at sea, but I think it's going to be great for you. So I want to just kind of start by, I want to get into some of the lessons you've learned about enterprise tribes over the years, but start by telling the peeps, what have you been doing? When did you leave SAP exactly? Has it been like 9 months now or longer?
No, it's like May 2015.
Okay, so we're moving in on 2 years.
Yep.
Wow, time really flies. So what have you been up to? What do you do for a living now?
I thought we first introduced me for the people that don't know all the things that I've done before.
Yeah. Please say whatever you say.
I grew up in Germany. Studied there computer science, and funny thing is that back then I developed neural networks, and now it's like one of the hottest things, everything plus AI plus machine learning. So
hey, you were only off by 30 years, man.
What?
You were only off by 30 years.
Hey. Started with SAP, implemented SAP software in Germany, back then even R2. And then R3 came out, and I was in a team that made it easier to implement SAP software. So it used to be 2 years, even for small and medium companies, and with using tools and technologies, we brought it down to an average of 6 months implementation time, and that was pretty amazing. And I did like products and then marketing for it, and then I was in the team of a handful of people that started the SAP Development Network in 2003. And one thing that was happening there, I grew into the role of being the community leader. And what was fascinating was, on one hand, being able to influence the tools itself. On the other hand, seeing how I can get the community up. And my focus back then was, how can I bring out the passion in the community? And that was guiding me. And that really guided a lot of the decisions that we made. So, how do I get the passion out? I give them a voice. I give them a reason to be there. So we, from the beginning, let them blog on SDN, even if they're not from SAP and so on. And how do you get the passion out too? By creating face-to-face meetings. So I then thought, hey, the developers, the coolest thing for outside developers is to go to SAP themselves and walk the halls where the software is developed. So we created SDN Meets Labs in Palo Alto, in Waldorf, in Bangalore, so that people came to that event. And there was like the nucleus of the top community influencer program. So we did it unconference style. That was totally new back then too. Hey, come and write your session down and present. And that was the first time that Thomas Jung would present his stuff at an event, and that then morphed into the SDN Day, and top community influencers again took it and said, this is really cool. We would like to have that not only once a year, how about we do it locally? And that was the nucleus for the SAP Inside Tracks that are now happening worldwide 25 times a year, if not more. That's my last number. And that is so powerful because it is an event that is not organized by SAP marketing, but it is organized by the community, and the most passionate people from the community share what the latest and greatest is, what they learned, what they did. And SAP was just supporting it with a little bit of money for food and drinks, and all the rest is organized by the community. And that is one of the biggest advantages of developing your own enterprise tribe. So I realized with that passion thing that there are a handful of people that are doing the majority of the lifting, and it's really cool to be around them because their passion is bringing you to be passionate too.
I think just to cut in there for a sec, Mark, I think I wasn't around for all of that history, though you and I got to know each other about halfway through that when I joined the mentor program that you had helped to launch, which we were a part of for a number of years. But the thing that I always get when I hear this type of history from you and other people is that it doesn't feel very corporate, which is really interesting. Like in some ways it feels like somewhat seat of the pants, but not totally in a bad way, right? Like you were inventing a lot of stuff as you went. One interesting lesson from all that is how much freedom you guys were given at that time. You were given a lot of rope to do something with, right? And I think what's powerful about that is that it really allowed people to think very creatively and boldly and imaginatively without really fear of repercussions, right? They weren't sitting there saying, oh, what will my manager think in my KPI meeting next week about this or that, right? It was much more about boldly striving forward. And as a result of that, what you guys didn't realize at the time is you were developing these pillars of how you build an enterprise community that's now become very, very strategically important for companies for a lot of reasons, including how people buy and assess software purchases.
Exactly. So nowadays it's like common knowledge, 67% of all of your decision to buy software or anything more or less is done before they even contact you, before they even go to your website. And so who are the influencers then? Well, it's your extended network, it's your community, and that is why it is so important to create this environment of excellence around your top community influencers that are then spreading the gospel and doing cool stuff.
And Mark, one thing I want to add to that too, I think you make a really good point about this, the way in which buyers research and the community around a software product really makes an impression on them. But also with so much software moving towards subscription licensing and often cloud-based licensing, what's happening is that go live ends up just being the beginning of a relationship more than ever before. And so I think also the community has a tremendous impact in being able to retain those customers, right? Because community is how they feel confident, for example, that their concerns are getting addressed, that they feel advocated for and represented, and have a forum to connect with their peers as well.
And I think that this is something that people forget, that a software decision in the enterprise space is like a marriage, and right. You want to be where you feel comfortable and where you feel heard, and so that is a big part of the decision, where you say, oh, here are people that I'm doing cool stuff and I feel at home here. They help me if I'm struggling, and that is what your strong community is doing for you.
Right. Now, before we get to what you're doing now, is there anything more? Were there any other pieces of the puzzle that you picked up at SAP that relate to what you're doing now? Was the mentor program part of that too, another sort of pillar, if you will, of your approach? Or
yeah, absolutely. So then realizing that these top community influencers are doing the heavy lifting and are doing cool stuff that you want to be part of, I then created that initiative, the SAP Mentors. Out of the, back then, what was it, 2.5, 3 million members, we selected at the beginning, or got nominated and then selected 75, and now it's 150 worldwide, and they are the beating heart of the community and also the community voice. So it has different pillars. It has a pillar of, yes, where the SAP mentors are, or where your enterprise tribe is where the community is happening. Wherever there's an event, a larger event, find the mentors, and there's something cool happening. Yeah.
Right. And I think the other interesting thing about the mentor program at SAP is that, from what I know, there's really no exact equivalent of what it is you guys built there. There are a lot of similar programs at other companies that are essentially programs of experts.
Right.
So what is the Oracle ACE?
Oracle ACEs, Microsoft MVPs.
Yeah. But I thought what was really interesting about the mentors was this effort to try to identify people who were genuine leaders, right? The expertise in the product was understood, and that had to be there. But there was another piece of it that I thought was really interesting, and it led to fascinating discussions, right? Because what happened was, before that, the highest level you could achieve was sort of a topic leader type of person on the community network, which essentially meant you accumulated a number of points based on your participation. Right. When the mentors were created, and I talked to Craig Schmeichel about this quite a bit, he called it the path to recognition. But what I think it did is it raised the bar for the entire community in terms of what type of person should we look up to and aspire to being, right? So instead of just being an expert and the person with the most points, it had to do with who's making a unique contribution that really makes a difference in the lives of customers, partners, everyone in the community. And I really like how the values shifted around that. I don't know what you think, but to me, that was the big takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. And that it is not only the online community that people came through. There was like ASOC, exceptional members of ASOC. There was then different people that just did amazing things, not necessarily online, and that thought leaders. Because that is the second pillar, that as being the voice of the community. So yes, being active, but then also the voice of the community, where we brought them together with the executives through webinars that were happening 2-3 times a week, and at face-to-face meetings, Sapphire and TechEd.
Right, and the other interesting thing was just pulling in people who were on the edges of the community. So Craig Schmeichel used to talk about how that experts might be internal voices, but mentors were external voices. They were able to connect with a broader constituency. And when I was invited to become a mentor, it was because I was writing on this wacky stuff called business process expertise, and or BPX at the time, which I'm still a big fan about, but that's a whole different
It
story.
will come back.
Well, it's still, yeah, we still need business process experts. I don't care what anybody says. But anyway, but I was approached by you guys, and I was not that active like on the classic community channels at that time. I was doing my own thing, and I think that was another way in which the program was very different. Is there were a lot of external voices. I mean, even my current diginomica colleague Dennis Howlett, who, if anyone knows Dennis, is one of the most unlikely people you could ever imagine to be a part of a program like that, because frankly, he can be a pain in the ass, but he's also very outspoken. He had given SAP a hard time on a number of occasions. And by bringing someone like him in the fold, it was kind of a very clever move on your part. And I think it really shook up the notion of what that program could be, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, Dennis really brought in, for example, he was the driving force behind New McLeod sketch. The quality is not job number one. It is being fucking amazing. It's job number one. And he had the idea, and I ran with it, and Mark Yolton was giving the money for it, and also what's his name from the blogger program, Mike Persino also gave money, and so that was a concerted effort. And
just a quick side note, Hugh actually changed the sketch to being freaking amazing for the purposes of being able to present it to executives. That was the only change that was made.
Yes. And I'm grateful that he was an artist who is okay with adjusting that. But it was amazing. So we got every mentor one, and we gave them another one to give to someone who is in the environment of SAP and doing a freaking amazing job, and taped that and brought that out, and that really opened doors and really started conversations and created the network, and that the weaving of the network with these passionate people and experts and thought leaders, and also from the fringes, that was an amazing mixture that really made a huge difference. And the executives loved to talk to them because there was this unvarnished feedback that they were getting from them, and they told them where North is in the market at the moment, and that they like that.
Well, right, because I think the criticism I have of most community initiatives is that I think most of them are, in my opinion, a little bit neutered, I guess you could say, in that they're focused on a lot of good deeds in the community, but not so much on this piece you're talking about, which I think of as advocacy. I think of it as advocating for customers, advocating for developers. And the fact of the matter is that kind of transparency is very difficult for companies. And look, I'm convinced it was difficult for SAP and still is sometimes. Every company struggles with this, but it's this notion that we want to expose some of these more difficult conversations. But what we were finding is that those transparent discussions were actually what moved the needle. And so when you look at things today, like some of the progress SAP has made on, for example, developer licenses, which used to be like a huge, utter pain in the ass to try to accomplish, like a lot of that came out, not just from mentors, we shouldn't limit it to mentors, but mentors were a driving force in that type of dialogue, right? But then they would become infamous sometimes for certain blog posts, right? Like there's still a legendary blog post that I could refer to as the kiss of death, but it had to do with a product that one of the mentors thought was being sunsetted. And that kind of thing creates a lot of intense scrutiny and discussion. So it's a very challenging and interesting way to approach community, I think.
Yep. So that, and one of the things that I learned from bringing the top community influencers together in the mentor program, and is, these experts and thought leaders don't need more KPIs. You have to write 5 blog posts per year. No, to motivate them, you have to do that differently. You have to not have a list to check off, but to aspire to their own imagination and aspire or inspire them to create an environment of excellence. And so what I then did, instead of KPIs, I said, hey, let's work on a document, which I call the SAP Mentor Magic Foundation document, on what we aspire to. And that was something that we all agreed. And then you could then say at the end of the year, hey, so if I look at that document, what did I do to fulfill that? Which is be a spokesperson for the community, be active in the community, however that falls out, and be humble. So yes, you get the bigger megaphone, but that is also creating some tension of us against the rest of the community. And so whatever we do as mentors, we try to involve as many as possible and are interested in, and so on and so on. And then one of the things that I realized was what a playfulness, what a role that plays in that creation of the environment of excellence.
Right.
And that was more or less what opened my eyes was the welcoming reception of new mentors. So at every large event, there's a mentor reception, and new mentors get their shirt, the one with the Twitter handle on the back and their own number and name. And so they come up and give the shirt. And someone from the mentors, I don't recall who it was, like, hey, we should do something with the new mentors. And I hate hazing, but I said, oh yeah, how about, hey, here's a microphone anyhow, sing a song. And I didn't realize what horror that can induce in people. And so apologies to that, but what we, and people wanted to run off stage and say, I can't sing. And then we said, hey, just a lullaby or happy birthday. That, nothing more. And we heard great lullabies from all over the world, which was cool. But then they start to sing and others join in and applause at the end. And that is more or less creating the stage for saying, oh yeah, here I can step out of my comfort zone and others will help me if I stumble. This is a safe space. And so that is creating trust. So what I realized with like playfulness and trust is like going like that. Mm-hmm. That you really create an environment of trust, and that enables then things like one year in Madrid where we had the Tecket and Sapphire at the same space. And jokingly, from the stage, the MC was saying, hey, you geeks in the audience, be kind to the suits. And because we allow this playfulness, some of the mentors said, okay, how about we give every suit a hug and take a picture and put it on social media? Which at the beginning was very awkward. So the executives knew what is happening, and the mentors were very careful. First evening, next day, it was already the mentors, whom have we not hugged yet? And the executives were like, where is my mentor love? I didn't get a hug yet. So that totally brought these, broke down the barriers between these people and created deeper network relationship through that. And so that playfulness, and so I had a discussion with the mentors and said, oh, shall we add that to the mentor magic foundation document? And that was a big discussion because some consultants said, wait a sec, I have a reputation, and if I'm too playful, my reputation goes. And so we said, you don't have to be playful, but you have to tolerate playful of others. And then when I left SAP, and said, someone else is taking our mentor program over, one of the biggest conversations was like, how can we make sure that the playfulness stays with us, stays in the program? So from, oh, discussion, we are not sure, to it's really important. And that is one of the elements that I am bringing now to other organizations, to say, to break down barriers, to create an environment of trust, to create an environment of excellence, bring elements of playfulness into your organization, into interactions, so that people love to work with you, be part of that amazing thing that we do.
Yeah, and I think we could talk about some of the legacy of what carried on, but I would argue that notion of playfulness is one of the things I would point to that has carried on from when you were there, because you still see that at SAP events. At the Tech Ed I went to in Barcelona, they had a jam band on stage, which was, the jam band was originally a community event, in the community space, and it's become a big thing. And some SAP executives performing in the band on stage, and and it was cool to see that carry on a little bit. And you do realize how doing the unexpected like that changes things. And while I'm not sure that everyone completely enjoyed the jam band performance, let's be honest, I think it beats the crap out of the canned music that you would typically hear at the end of a keynote, right? These are people from your lives and your community that are up there on stage, and I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that 5K run that we did, because Björn Görke is an avid runner, and I said, hey, Björn, let's do a run with a wolf pack. One evening or one morning in Las Vegas, 6 o'clock, and we did that, and other mentors loved it and went to the Tech Ed team and said, hey, we should do that every year. And now that there are like 300 to 500 people that run there every year down the strip, 6 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And again, creating a network effect in people that you bump into and talk to before or after. And I totally love that is continuing.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.